I like to think about work. Not too long ago, if you asked somebody what they did, they would probably reply with their job title and the name of their employer. I'm a dentist at Irwin Technical College. I'm a truck driver for McLean. I'm a professor at St. Leo. Nowadays, you might hear something more like this. I manage projects using AI. I do cybersecurity, but I also drive part-time and I trade stocks online. I work remotely for a company I've never seen in a city I've never visited. Something fundamental is changing about the way that we think about work. There's many reasons for this, but let's talk about 3 of them today. I want to include artificial intelligence, automation, and labor market volatility. We'll start with AI. Intelligent agents and large language models are everywhere. Last week, I think I got 15 emails inviting me to different AI conferences, seminars, trainings. The Washington Center for Equitable Growth determined that in 2025, 50% of GDP growth was based on AI investments. Pretty good. The media is a darling for wringing their hands and saying, is this the end of writing jobs, creative jobs, coding jobs? For most workers, AI isn't replacing their job, but it is reshaping it. The best employers and the best workers are focusing on reskilling. We're changing the way that we think about our value as workers. Since the days of the cave people, value meant what specialized knowledge and skills you had, what you knew and what you could do. Nowadays, that specialized value is focused also on how well we leverage technology, how we use it to prompt, how we use it to interpret, how we use it to apply to problems. So let's talk about automation. Automation is not new. The Industrial Revolution was almost 200 years ago. More recently, productivity software came on the scene maybe 50 years ago and changed cognitive work. Created new jobs, but other jobs disappeared. Typesetters became typewriters, became word processors. Nowadays, an intelligent agent can create a document in seconds, further reducing the impact of transactional work. This is troubling for those of us in white-collar jobs, your paralegals, your professors, your financial analysts, your graphic artists and designers. We can no longer assume long-term stability in the workplace. Rather than asking, how do I climb the corporate ladder, many of us are now asking, how do I keep from falling off? Well, finally, let's talk about volatility. The labor market in the US has become more and more disorganized and hard to predict. Of course, COVID-19 resulted in millions of layoffs, but it also brought us the remote work revolution, the Great Resignation. Then in 2022, we had a record 12.3 million job openings. And then hiring freezes and more layoffs and the return to office movement. 2025, according to the Associated Press, was the worst year in the 21st century for hiring. So what does it mean as the role of AI expands and automation reshapes our tasks and volatility destabilizes what we thought we knew about work? We've been in a place for a long time where we're moving from a job mentality to a knowledge-based mentality. I'm going to argue that we're moving even faster and closer to a singularity where we'll all become purely knowledge workers. Today, the workplace and staffing models are made up of fractional executives, part-time workers, full-time, freelancers, contractors, gig workers, all blending together in this flexible network. Employees are more likely to identify with, rather than an employer, a particular skills portfolio. You may be a professor, or a dentist, or a driver, but you also are a data analyst, or a digital marketer, or a project manager. It may be that the resume of the future becomes the skills profile if we can change the mindset and the programming of HR managers and applicant tracking systems. So this shift to skills has pros and cons. Right? On the pros side, we know there's more flexibility, more autonomy for workers. Geographic barriers have virtually disappeared, but there's a trade-off. With great flexibility comes great responsibility. We are responsible for making sure that we continuously reskill. And these changes are speeding up. The psychological contract of give us your work and we'll give you stable benefits is weakened, particularly for entry-level employees. And this raises some interesting questions about work as we know it. For example, if work becomes more fluid, what happens to the benefits and rewards that we have relied on from full-time jobs? How do we train and develop entry-level employees into leadership roles if AI is managing so much of the entry-level work? And if the workplace and staffing is becoming project-based, what does that mean for organizational fit and culture and belonging? Does it still matter to anybody? These aren't just economic questions, these are societal questions, right? Work is not just about making our living, that's part of it, but also it contributes to our identity and our purpose. So what does this transformation mean for our society? Well, first of all, employers have already started rethinking staffing. They've got to hire quicker. They've got to train more aggressively. They really should plan for partnerships between humans and AI and automation instead of deciding to replace workers. We as workers have a responsibility as well. We've got to think about lifelong learning, not just as a cool catchphrase, but as a survival strategy. The best workers of the future won't necessarily be the ones who are most experienced, but possibly the ones who are most agile. And then all of us need to be thinking about how we conceptualize education and compensation in our new reality. As work becomes more flexible and nonlinear, why are we still front-loading so much education into the first 20 to 25 years of life? Education is way behind on becoming more modular, more accessible, more just-in-time. And for benefits, as work becomes more fluid and more flexible, benefits have to be more portable. They have to travel with the person, the worker, rather than being attached to the company or the employer. We are living in an interesting and transformational time, right? When technical and cultural changes happen, they can result in unrest and fear, but only if we don't have strategies and mindsets and tools to respond to them. Perhaps our biggest psychological transformation has to come from thinking about work differently. Instead of thinking, I need a job, we need to tell our students, our children, our colleagues, you need capabilities. Instead of focusing on my job defines me, we should change to I define my work. In this age of transformation, employment is no longer like a ladder, it's more like a jungle gym. We can go so many different directions. Consulting, freelancing, gig work, fractional employees and executives. The issue is, if employers do seek these kinds of roles, they must also equally value and respect them. The future is not about humans versus machines. It's more about how humans can harness those machines. We need to be the ones who thrive, not by surrendering to transformation, not by blatantly embracing transformation, but by being people who strive to guide our transformation. Thank you.